Hello, my name is Mitch, and I draw Blood Force. And today we're going to take a look at 1993's Superman number 75, The Death of Superman. So this is, obviously, this is not related to Image Comics, but it is sort of an interesting side effect of Image Comics, in my opinion. Because, of course, at that time, all the best artists in comics were working for Image Comics, and Marvel and DC, having previously been the top dogs and wanting to remain so, obviously, had to try and come up with ways to compete. And you can't get the best artists, and because of the recent focus on artists, the value of writers was at a low, So to compensate, I guess, Marvel and DC went for event-driven sales. So at Marvel, you'd get crap like the Clone Saga, and I don't know, pulling the metal off Wolverine's bones, all that kind of crap. DC they went ham. They had, of course, the breaking of Batman's back, which apparently is unrelated. If you, the creators behind that will claim that it wasn't planned to happen at the same time. Believe it or not, it's up to you. And of course, the death of Superman. So I was reading up on this. It is kind of a bit more interesting than I thought it would be. Apparently, so it was event-driven thinking, but the event that was planned was the wedding of Superman. And the thing is, they couldn't do it at the time they wanted to because Adventures of Lois and Clark was going on at the same time. They were going to do a wedding between Lois and Superman. And Warner Brothers apparently requested that the DC holds off. So the DC's like, so we need a new event in the meantime. And Jerry Ordway, who had joked this before apparently, goes, what if we kill Superman off? And everyone goes, oh, maybe. Which I don't think really ties together very well with Lois and Clark featuring Superman and Lois getting married a year later. But, well, sure, why not? I mean, who gives a fuck at that point, I guess. So, the Superman writers would get together, I guess, once a year. There were 4 Superman titles going on at the time. And they would kind of figure out what they were going to do for the coming year. So that's a pretty good way to keep things all connected and make sure everybody's staying on the right track. And so they decided, all right, we're going to try this Death of Superman thing. Because we need event-driven sales. Also because, and Superman the sales are dwindling. They're down to 150,000 copies, guys. But, it is Superman. And this is at a time when any kind of big book seems to be selling between 5 and 750,000 copies. So, Superman should be a big book. He's the first, he's the oldest superhero still going, right? And he's recognized worldwide, all that shit. And there's a little bit of fuck you in that, why aren't you guys buying all the Superman books? We're going to teach you a lesson. We're going to take Superman away from you for a little while. And so that's what they decided to do. And they didn't want to go with one of Superman's traditional villains because they're usually science-based, like technology-based. They didn't want to go with Kryptonite, I guess because, Superman had been around for 50-plus years at that point. We kind of seen a lot of that. So instead, they were just going to come up with a brute, and they were going to beat Superman to death. I guess we hadn't seen that before. I don't know. And they came up with Doomsday, which was, they just came up with a guy. Basically, they all sketched character designs, and Dan Jurgens was kind of based off of the Image guys, and he had all the bones poking through, big muscle-looking guy and all that shit. They're like, yeah, let's go with that one. That'll probably sell a bunch. And they're like, do we need a backstory? Hell no, we don't. So oh, boy, good times. That's writing in 1993 is what that is. Oh, it's a bit of a shame. Louise Simonson is in on this. You think she would have directed them a bit better, but Roger Stern too. Oh well, whatever. So, November of 92. Superman number 73 comes out. That's the beginning of the death of Superman. So they spent all of 2 months on this. They had 4 issues a month coming out. Still, it seems like something you probably want to build up a bit more. And Superman number 73 barely touches on it. I think the last page has Doomsday punching a wall. Then you move to Superman Man of Steel number 18, December 1992. That's when Doomsday escapes, and he just starts punching everything and giggling to himself. Well, not giggling. He just kind of like a bird flies down to greet him. It like lands on his hand, and he crushes it. And he goes, ha 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 ha. And then he keeps walking, and he just keeps doing that, where he flips something over, punches something, and goes, ha 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 ha. This is the guy who's going to kill Superman. So Justice League, they confront Superman, or they confront Doomsday. He beats them all with one hand still tied behind his back. And then the fight with Superman takes place. That starts up in, I think it's Adventures of Superman number 497. And it's a 4-issue fight, so that's something. And they had an interesting concept behind it where they would do a countdown on the panels. So in that issue, it's 4 panels per page. Next comic is Action Comics number 684, 3 panels per page. Superman the Man of Steel number 19, 2 panels per page. And then in this one, every page is a splash page, right? Which is an interesting concept. The only problem is that Dan Jurgens is drawing this. Which, oh man. I mean, they had decent guys. I remember Simon Bisley at the time saying, man, why didn't you give that shit to me? That could have been so good. Anyway, so this is January of 1993. This is 2 months after starting things. So we're starting off, and like I said, splash pages. Splash pages by Dan Jurgens. And it's not, like, it's fine. You know, it's structurally sound. It's not eye-catching. This angle is boring. This is pretty weak, where he's kind of got him in a reverse headlock, and he's pushing his hand away. Like, this is not Impact. Who's shooting at him? Interesting. And the colors don't help. Like, this is, I guess 6 months after the beginning of Image, but like, yeah, Marvel hadn't switched either, so they were still stuck in the 4-color thing. I mean, like, this is the same kind of coloring as Watchmen, which came out 6 years previous. And, okay, so that's who's shooting. It's, these guys. Project Cadmus. I didn't read Superman. I don't know what this crap is. And got Doomsday pushing him again. This would have been worked better probably as a worm's eye view. There should have been way more worm's eye view on Doomsday. You want him looking massive. Instead, we mostly get the background here. The purple sky's a nice touch. Like, there's all sorts of like neat stuff that they're trying. Like, they know the theory. It's just they got Dan Jurgens drawing it, and he's not an exciting artist. And yep, picks up. I mean, this should be pretty quick, right? Picks up Superman, looks fine there. Ugh. Okay, and look at Superman. What's with the lazy eye? I'm thinking Dan Jurgens tried to draw this upside down. This arm looks pretty bad. I mean, you know, yeah, it looks like he's pretty twisted here, but not in a way that looks painful or anything. It just looks like you don't know how to draw a spine. And then he throws him there. Okay. And, like, again, this is all pretty structurally sound. That looks pretty good for a dude being thrown at a helicopter, I guess. Well, thrown at a dude. And then the two of them crash into a helicopter. And he's got a Dutch angle coming here. But mostly we're getting a shot of Doomsday's taint. And yeah, a lot of focus on the background, it seems like. You know the image guys wouldn't have done that. This would have been all speed lines. And then Superman rescues the other helicopter here, which I guess has Jimmy and... I don't know if that's... That doesn't seem like it's Lois. I suppose it could be. But this is when the... every page is a splash page is kind of letting you down a little bit, because like you don't want to spend a page on this in a Death of Superman comic. And yeah, like all this could have been condensed. And Doomsday's still wrecking shit in the background, but he seems like a bit of a footnote. We probably should have reversed that. I don't know. And we got this, okay, the shot of, so it is Lois, okay. And they say their goodbyes. And Superman kind of looks like he's wearing eyeshadow here. And this is, oh, now we get the speed lines. Oh, man. Doomsday gets his. Wait, come back, please come back. Wow, I don't think I've ever seen the big guy so fired up. This is horrible dialogue. It's just the worst. And this is supposed to be the big Superman's, you know, he's getting all fired up, as Jimmy says, and gonna go take down Doomsday. And this drawing is the worst. Just straight up, I don't know. Like, I could think of a dozen ways he could have done this better. But we're going to do speed lines. We're going to do the craggy borders. We're going to do everything we can to try and image this shit up. And Dan Jurgens just doesn't have it. This is a bit of a spoiler. I guess the cover spoiled it a bit too. And here's yeah, Superman flying in for a dick punch. He looks like he flew in and then immediately folded against him. Everybody looks, you know, fairly structurally sound. It also looks boring. And it looks weak. And, yep, Superman's punching him in the dick. And, oh, you can barely tell what's going on here. I guess Superman got thrown? Oh, no, that's the two of them. Okay, that makes sense, I suppose. And we get kind of a shitty drawing of a few buildings here. It was before Google image search, or Google Maps even. So you couldn't really just pull up a shot and be like, that's what it actually looks like from that isometric angle. But that doesn't look too great. And again, this is the every page has to be a splash, kind of letting you down. And then this is comical, particularly with Doomsday going baha. This is like the worst fake wrestling move I've ever seen out of a video game. And then they're just telling him to back off. It would have been good if you could have, I don't know, maybe put these two panels on the same page. And again, we're going to focus on Doomsday's taint. You know, at least we get the good shot here with the fist coming up. So we know what we're supposed to be looking at. I don't know what I'm supposed to be looking at here. He doesn't look... He looks tiny. Lois Lane looks like she's twice the size of him. Because of just the way you set up the angle here. Like, what's the focus here? Is it Jimmy? Is it the Daily Planet logo? That's probably the biggest thing on the page. And he punches him in the ass this time. Big old ass punch. like, yeah, that looks like it would be a bit more comfortable than punching him on the chin with all the bony protrusion stuff. But this angle is bad, again. This is maybe the best. If you get rid of that, this is probably the best image out of the entire book. Most exciting one, anyway. But that is just, I don't know. Like, it's a fine drawing of Lois on its own. That's fine. Absolutely. Except that the angle doesn't lie, unless she's like lying on the sidewalk. And if she is, then she's, again, about twice the size of Superman. Okay. And we got to get narration on all this stuff, because otherwise you're going to read this comic in about 30 seconds. So we got bony protrusion, so sharp. He cut me. Don't let him know, Superman. This probably, see, that probably would work better as a thought balloon. It's been so long since I've seen thought balloons, I kind of forgot that they did that. So now we're getting into just, yeah, he's shredding his face with the frickin' knuckles. That's not a bad shot. Get real close up in there. Turn it into like a slugfest kind of thing. Get some double lighting on the arm. That's fine. Now we get... and it gets weak again. Because he kicks off his knee. That's really what he did. He kicked off his knee. And I guess it's important that Luthor donated a building. You didn't know that. And he's winning the test of strength. This is like, so they were watching Hulk Hogan versus Ultimate Warrior, and they're like, this is how you build an end of the world fight. And then they get the big shot. This shot I like the concept of, where they both hit each other so hard it blows out all the glass, but it just, they couldn't execute it. And again, the focus seems to be as much the Daily Planet logo as these two kind of poorly drawn dudes punching each other. Like, can you imagine? I remember Simon Bisley saying how he would have shot this with like them flying through to the center of the earth and like being thunderclouds, and everything is just like super dynamic and like fully painted and all this shit. And now they're gearing up for the big double axe handle punch. It's a fine shot, at least, I suppose, of a double axe handle punch. Looks like we're both betting everything we've got on this one. I got to put this guy away while I still can. And that's the big punch. I guess it's impressive. Sure. No. Not really. And yeah, we get the big close-up. And we're going to get some narration. Which is all kind of lame. And Pa Kent. I guess Pa Kent dies after this, eh? He has like a heart attack in, I think, Adventures of Superman 500, something like that. And there's the JLA, I guess. I was looking at, I was flipping through a little bit of this earlier, where he's fighting a bunch of guys, and like, it's like, oh, what's his name? Guy Gardner, and I don't even know, Fire, I think, and Booster Gold. I'm like, who are these losers? And I guess that was a JLA back in the day. Never really read a lot of DC, but they fought Doomsday. They were the warm-up match before Superman got there. And so Doomsday's dead. That's a decent shot of him just like face down. Oh, he's not. Well, he's not dead. I don't think. He might be though. I mean, they didn't do anything with Doomsday after this, did they? And Superman looks pretty badly colored. The shot's fine, and then he. And we get the cover shot. That's a bit too much Lois. I don't know. Again, this is not. This could have been done better. It feels like. But Superman died, yo. That's like super sad, right? World without a Superman. Now, and this was another thing they did. Oh, the legend continues. Funeral for a friend. Sorry, that was just something I wanted to check. Yeah, so from what I read, they decided to delay all the Superman titles by 3 months after this, which is an interesting little bit of trickery, I gotta say. They're all looking at them; they're all dated the same. Like this, if this is January '93, which I think it is, yeah, January '93. Like the next issue of Superman is February, but I guess they held off on them. I wonder if they caught that up. Anyway, but yeah, and if you're wondering why 3 months, it's because that's the solicitation cycle. So if they had waited 2 months, say, then immediately after Superman 75 came out, if you wanted, you could check the solicitations and be like, okay, but 76 is coming 2 months later, so obviously they're coming right back with it. You wait 3 months, you go, wait a minute, is Superman actually dead? And the editor, I think, or one of the writers, has said he was quite sure that no reader, or most of the readers anyway, would not have believed that Superman was actually dead. They all knew that they were going to bring him back. Everybody should have known that. It was obviously planned right from the beginning. This was just kind of a kick in the ass to be like, okay, you guys don't like Superman? This is what it's like when there's no Superman. Which, you know, look how shitty our comics are when there's no Superman. It's not the best argument, I guess. But yeah, so after this, I mean, it worked. It did exactly what they wanted to do. It didn't look that great, but I guess it didn't matter. It was more about the event. It's like the 4th highest selling comic book in that's been recorded, as far as I can see, somewhere in that neighborhood. Because it sold 3 million copies, so just behind, well, X-Men #1, obviously, X-Force #1, and Adventures of Superman #500, I guess, which sold 3.7. I don't even know what that one was about, but it's not Return of. That doesn't come for a while. But yeah, so I mean, they got their huge sales. They got a massive amount of media attention, and like it was it turned into such a fucking publicity stunt. Which, you know, if you're gonna kill a Superman, I guess you might as well. And it gave them storylines for like a year afterwards, because Funeral for a Friend goes on for like, I don't even know, man. It's like I'm looking in the things here. It looks like it goes up to like part 25 or something. So that's like at least 6 months worth of comics right there. And you get the Reign of the Superman. Oh, maybe that's the one that goes super long. But Funeral for a Friend is just everybody dealing with there being no Superman. And then the 4 different Supermen show up. And apparently that was each writer's different idea for what to do next with Superman. So you get Superboy and the Cyborg and Steel and the Eradicator, I guess. Most of those are existing characters. And they're just like, yeah, no, let's go forward with this now. And the editor's just like, all right, each of you guys do your thing. Do the thing you suggested. Which, again, is a neat idea, I suppose. I don't think anybody thought that any of those were actually Superman. But, yeah, no, it's cool. And then you bring actual Superman back, and Dan Jurgens doesn't want it to be just back to regular Superman, so he gives him the long hair, and they kind of deepen the reds and the blues in the costume. And so, no, you don't get to be completely happy that Superman's back, because he's got his stupid long hair. But, you know, yeah, I think things are back to normal in about a year. But, you know, it did kind of give them a bunch of shit to work with, I guess. It just would have been nice if they'd just brought in somebody special to draw the thing, they wouldn't have been one of the Image guys. I don't think you could have afforded them at that point, and they all still thought they were going to draw their own comics. But there's still plenty of dudes. Get Bill Sienkiewicz. That would have been interesting. No, don't do that. Simon Bisley, though, would have been great. There's all sorts of guys that would have been very interesting. But Dan Jurgens was not the guy. He just can't draw that, like, an interesting looking comic. He's got too much Valentino in him. Where it's all structurally sound and it's like laid out fine, although he's not as good at that as Valentino seems to be. But yeah, he just could not draw an exciting looking Image to save his life. Oh well. I don't think DC's sad that they put it out. So that's gotta be it for this one. Please, hit like if you like this video. Hit subscribe, hit the notifications so you'll know when I put up more. Follow me on Twitter at Team Blood Force, and you can subscribe to my stuff on Patreon. All these videos end up there, as well as my finished pages and concept art, all that kind of stuff. And we'll figure out what we're doing next. I think probably maybe X-Force. I mean, you got to hit X-Force, right? We've hit all the other big ones. We hit Spider-Man, we hit X-Men, now we've hit Death of Superman. You kind of got to hit X-Force #1 after this, I think. So, hopefully we'll see you in this one. Thanks for watching.